so take 15. There's too much laughing in the other ones. So,
some music on that.
yeah, you're just adding a load of music. Where we've come from yesterday, well, hopefully we've come away. We've come away from flat readings into linear readings, narrative readings, decoupled from positional meanings. Different ways of looking at the cards, all the way from our very first encounter, just turning each card over and talking to the cards. We specifically looked at the opening of the key, but in the meantime we've done our yes-no spread. We've done exercises with dialogue and narrative. With the opening of the key, we'll learn our counting methods, starting from the elemental, going through the houses, with all of the aspects, the zodiacal aspects, the decans, and the tree of life, and underneath that we've looked at counting, pairing, and dignities, elemental dignities, and these weird natural dignities, of which I've spake. And you can get a little bit more complex in that by looking at the sort of planetary aspects, which is the Liz Hazel book, the Tarot Decoder. We looked at our try spread, of which you've got the handout. There's also a video on the membership section of Tarot Professionals on that spread again, so as well as the one that's going to be on this sequence of videos. That's another one when I taught it the first time. And we finally looked at the Tree of Life, and I eventually got my brain into gear and checked, and Hierophant, Wheel, Hermit, Strength, for Haysaid. So, our very last thing that we're going to do, just to close off, is a very simple method of using the court cards. This is a very good way of analysing someone's question when it involves other people. You know, we're not really supposed to read third party, so someone comes in and says, can you do a reading for my brother because he's got a court case? How's it going to go? Well, we could read for the brother, but not via the other person. There's too many complications in doing that, as well as the ethics. However, most of us, when we're in situations, it does involve a lot of other people. And a lot of people have difficulties with court cards. So here's a way of resolving that situation. Incidentally, one rule with court cards, I covered this more in the book, but I've found that generally speaking, in a 10-card reading, if you have one court card, if you have 2 or 3 court cards, or if you have 4 or more, generally speaking, one court card always read as a person. 2 or 3 court cards always read as aspects or forces of the situation itself. And if you get 4 or more, either the question is about a football crowd or a party, or it's aspects or forces of the person. The reason I say that is not only from 30 years experience doing over 100,000 readings, it's because of a very simple rule, that the court cards embody levels of energy, from the very young, vibrant page to the mature, stable king and queen, particularly Kabbalistically in the whole structure of the deck. So, when that energy manifests, if it's only manifesting in your reading in one place, that is usually coming through a human being, a person, is holding that energy in the situation, they're manifesting it. If it's 2 or 3 points of energy being highlighted in your spread, then quite often it's showing you warring forces, you know, the Knight of Swords, the mental energies of the project, and the Queen of Pentacles, the sort of solid basis of the project. It's showing those as parts of the project or parts of the situation or something like that. Whereas if it's just one person, it's talking about the guy who's running the project, or you, or a new person, a new consultant in the project, or something like that, a real person. If it's loads, then often it's because the person sat in front of you is in so many different minds about the situation that the reading is going, oh, there are all of these energies, they're coming through you, so here's all of the different aspects of yourself. So it's a hard and fast rule from experience. That's a rule. Papers had an interesting one, which he said that kings and queens are people, and knights and pages are what people think towards you.
The querent.
Yeah, or the querent. Yes. So if you have the Queen of Pentacles in reading and the Knight of Swords, then the Queen of Pentacles is a real person, your boss, your mother, your sister, and the Knight of, what did I say, the Knight of Swords is how that person is thinking or projecting, we'd use the term nowadays, towards you. They are seeing you as the Knight of Pentacles, or they are acting towards you in a Knight of Swords sort of way, because they're projecting that quality onto you. That's what people think towards you. And that's quite an interesting way of doing a reading, because in modern parlance we're now identifying real people and their projections, and therefore who they are really in the situation itself. There's a handout on the Tarot Professionals website called, on the articles section, on the public section, called Why You Can't Read the Court Cards, and How to. And these are in that as well. You can't read the court cards because they're one person, and people aren't archetypes, they're a mixture. So you're looking at one person, the King of Wands, and in the back of your brain you're thinking, I wonder what he does on his days off, I wonder if he's more the Queen of Cups. You know, on a weekend. Because that's how we view other people, as being a mixture of all of these archetypal forces. And that's why you can't fix a court card. That's why people have difficulties reading them. So, having said that, let's read them. A way of using the court cards for a situation is this. I want you to think of a situation where there's more than two people involved in the situation. And I would like you to select out a number of court cards to represent each of those people. And then, in the way I do this with therapy clients, is I ask them then to place the cards. So I have the Queen of Pentacles, the King of Pentacles, and say, for example, the Knight of Cups. Okay. So I have the Knight of Cups, King of Pentacles, Queen of Pentacles. Those are three people in a situation that I want to examine and divine. I then ask them to place them down on the floor, on the table, in relation to each other. Okay, so I might have the King and Queen of Pentacles there, and the Knight of Cups, he's their son actually, in this situation. So he's left home and he's quite distant away, so I'm going to put him down there. And maybe these two people aren't talking to each other, so I'll put those there. Or maybe they're very close, so I'll put them there. Okay? So choose a situation, and before we do any divination, we're going to fix the court cards, the energy of the people manifesting themselves in relation to each other. So if you'd like to do that for me.
So we get all the court cards out?
No.
Just choose it in your mind and pick them out?
Yes, you actually select them. This is not a divination, this part of it. We're going to model the situation using the cards themselves. You do this for a real situation as well, because it can be quite a profound reading. Then I'd also like you to, when you selected those out, split your deck into the majors and minors as well. Okay. So take out all of the majors, put them in one pile, all of the minors in one pile. Obviously you'll have the court cards in another pile as well. Snow. Certainly, if you've ever done a really serious, traumatic reading, or feel that the cards are somehow almost like need resetting in some way or another, one idea is to take the cards and do exactly what we're doing here, and then resort them back into order. With all of the minor cards going through the suits, and the court cards of each suit, and the majors in numerical sequence, and then leave them for about a week, just stacked as you originally bought them, and then come back and give them a shuffle and start up with them again. I think it sort of aligns the cosmic forces in them. Okay. Okay, so in mine I've got the King of Cups, the Queen of Cups and the Page of Cups on settled for. Who's going to be representing Right, so lay them out in relation to each other. That's the first thing.
There's mine.
Oh, nice, you've stacked yours on top of each other. Very good. Of course, there doesn't just have to be 3, there could be 5 or 6. In fact, like 16 people. Supposing you had 2 Queen of Cups in this particular situation, what would you do? Your intermediate students, you should be able to tell me. What would you do?
2 Queen of Cups.
Yeah, you've got these instructions, you've downloaded them or you've remembered them from today. You're doing a situational reading to define something about a complex relationship between a number of people. You've got at least 2 people in it that are definitely Queen of Cups energies. What would you do? There's an obvious answer.
You got too much emotion in the reading, you know.
Use 2 decks.
Use 2 decks.
Oh,
Yeah. Find another Queen of Cups from another deck and then put it next to that one. Yeah. Just trying to think of other solutions. Just put a line, just put a pen on the card and show that it's 2. There's different ways of doing it. So, what we then do is, because every human situation, particularly the more complex ones, particularly the more traumatic or meaningful ones, are manifesting archetypes. So we have our archetypes cards, which are the majors. So now we're going to start to define what's really going on in this situation. And what we do is we shuffle our majors whilst looking at this situation, determining which order we're going to pull cards out for. And I'm going to choose the King of Cups, the Queen of Cups and the Page of Cups in that order, 1, 2, 3. And the first card I pull out of the majors is the archetypal forces being brought into the situation by the King. The next card, the archetypal forces by the Queen, and the final card, the archetypal forces. So I'm going to pull the Star against the King. The King is bringing in hope and vision. He is the one with all of the aims and the ambition. The next card, the Queen, strength. She's working to support the right relationship and hold everything together. However, strength and the Star are very different types of energy. So we can start to see how they are working together or maybe working against each other. Particularly in Rox's deck here, we've got loads of fiery energy all being constrained, and here more, it's open and pouring, more astral sort of energy here. And then finally the Page of Cups, we'll pull that down here. The Fool. He is manifesting on behalf of this relationship all of the freedom that's in the situation. And he is down here manifesting the Fool off on his journey. Make sense? So we start to dig deeper into the archetypal patterns going on underneath the particular relationship that's going on. Okay.
Oh, that's why we'll keep picking up the towel all the time.
Okay. How does that explain the situation, if at all? You don't have to share it, of course. I'm just interested if anything of interest comes up. Well, you would use the Thoth deck, wouldn't you?
Now, I have shared most things throughout this weekend, but I'm kind of not sharing this one.
Right, okay, that's fine. That's fine. It is on the video, so don't say anything out loud. However, intermediate students watching the video will be looking at it and go, Okay. Brilliant. And then, what we do, having defined the nature of the archetypes being brought into this situation, and working out the strengths between them, any disparity, the fact that a major archetype, no, obviously they're all majors, but the Fool is actually at a distance from here. Maybe the Fool should be brought closer. So how do these two characters embody the Fool a bit more in their lives, and so on and so on and so on. What we then do is we look at the dynamics between those archetypal forces acting out through the people involved. With the minors, of course. The minors depict all of the situations of life as things work themselves out through. Okay. So what we're going to do is now choose and divine, whilst thinking about the situation and looking at it working itself out. We then divine, I'm going to divine between the King of Cups and the Queen of Cups, the Eight of Pentacles. I'm also going to divine separately for the King of Cups and the Page of Cups and the Queen of Cups and the Page of Cups. In this case, you could just do it in one or two, doesn't really matter. So the King of Cups to the Page of Cups is the Seven of Swords, and the Queen of Cups to the Page of Cups is the Nine of Cups. So the King is relating to the Page through the Seven of Swords, and the Queen is relating through the Nine of Cups. You can virtually breathe into that story. And between themselves, the King and the Queen are relating through the Eight of Pentacles. And that's all we do with this reading. And we divine out of that, and we make decisions based on that. If you have any issues, like you want to know how to, say, resolve a situation, say between the King and the Queen here, you can always pull another card, a minor card, on top of that card, say, what's the way out of that, or how can we make the most of that, or how can we avoid this? You can then lay out another card on top of that card to define the answer. So the first divination is elicitation, and the next one is advisory. It's an oracle. I call this spread all the world's a stage spread. And men and women are the players in it.